My name is Catherine. I'm 28 years old. And 3 years ago, I married a man I didn't love for his money. 2 years ago, I divorced him and took half of everything. Let me tell you how I turned a calculated marriage into the best decision of my life. I met Elliott Harrington at a charity gala in Manhattan. I was 25, working as a personal assistant to a wealthy socialite, wearing a borrowed designer dress, nursing a single glass of champagne that I'd been holding for an hour because I couldn't afford another. Elliott was 53. Silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that comes from never having to check a price tag. He owned a private equity firm, had a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and a reputation that preceded him. He was also the most notorious womanizer in New York's elite social circle. Everyone knew Elliott Harrington couldn't keep his pants on. 3 ex-wives, countless mistresses, a pattern of trading in women the moment they hit 40 for younger, fresher models. But he was worth $300 million. And I was broke. Not just regular broke, drowning in student loans, eating ramen for dinner, sharing a studio apartment with 2 roommates broke. I'd graduated from a decent college with a degree in art history, which turned out to be worth approximately nothing in the real world. I tried everything. Waitressing, bartending, temp work. I'd applied to hundreds of jobs, and the best I could manage was being an assistant to a woman who treated me like her personal servant. I was tired. Tired of struggling. Tired of watching rich people throw away more money on a single dinner than I made in a month. Tired of pretending that hard work and determination would get me anywhere when the system was rigged from the start. So when Elliott Harrington approached me at that gala, his eyes traveling slowly down my body before meeting my gaze with a practiced smile, I made a decision. I was going to marry him. And then I was going to take him for everything he was worth. I don't think we've met, Elliott said, extending his hand. Elliott Harrington. Catherine Wells. I shook his hand, let my fingers linger just a moment too long. It's a pleasure. The pleasure is mine. His eyes glinted. What brings you here tonight? I'm here with Rebecca Sinclair. I work for her. Ah, Rebecca. Wonderful woman. Terrible taste in wine. He gestured to my glass. That champagne is appalling. Let me get you something better. He led me to the bar, ordered a bottle of Dom Perignon, poured me a glass himself. So, Catherine, what do you do when you're not attending charity galas? I could have told him the truth, that I was barely scraping by, that I had $40,000 in student debt, that I cried myself to sleep sometimes because I didn't know how I'd make rent. Instead, I smiled. I'm figuring that out. I graduated 2 years ago, still exploring my options. Smart and beautiful. Dangerous combination. I laughed. Let my hand brush his arm. You're quite the charmer, Mr. Harrington. Elliott, please. Mr. Harrington makes me feel old. You're not old. I looked up at him through my lashes. You're distinguished. He liked that. We talked for an hour. He told me about his business, his travels, his passion for collecting modern art. I told him carefully curated stories about my life. Nothing too desperate, nothing too eager. Just enough to seem interesting, young, available. When the gala ended, he asked for my number. I gave it to him. 3 days later, he called. Me to dinner. I said yes. Our first date was at Per Se, one of the most expensive restaurants in New York. Tasting menu alone cost $350 per person. Elliott ordered wine that cost more than my monthly rent. I wore a dress I'd bought specifically for this, maxed out my credit card, but it was an investment. Black, form-fitting, elegant without being slutty. I did my makeup carefully. Soft, pretty young. Elliott couldn't take his eyes off me. Over dinner, I played my role perfectly. I was interested but not fawning. Intelligent but not threatening. I laughed at his jokes, asked thoughtful questions about his work, touched his hand across the table. When he told me about his art collection, I lit up. I'd love to see it sometime. How about tonight? I hesitated. Just long enough. I don't usually go home with men on the first date. I'm not asking you to sleep with me, Catherine. I genuinely want to show you the collection. But if you're uncomfortable, no, it's okay. I trust you. A lie. I didn't trust him at all. But I needed to see his apartment, gauge his wealth, understand what I was working with. His penthouse was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Marble floors. Furniture that cost more than most people's cars. And the art, Rothko, Basquiat, Warhol. Millions of dollars hanging casually on walls. This is incredible, I breathed. You appreciate art. I like that. He poured us cognac. We sat on his terrace, Manhattan glittering beneath us. Can I ask you something, Catherine? Of course. Why did you say yes to dinner with me? A beautiful young woman like you must have plenty of options. I turned to face him. Honestly? Because you're different. Most men my age are boys. They don't know what they want. They play games. You're confident. Established. You know who you are. Translation: You're rich and I'm poor and this is a transaction. But he heard what he wanted to hear. I like you, Catherine. You're refreshing. I like you too. He kissed me. Kissed him back. I felt nothing. We dated for 6 months before he proposed. 6 months of expensive dinners, private jets, weekend trips to Paris and Monaco. 6 months of playing the role of the perfect girlfriend, attentive, affectionate, just impressed enough by his wealth without seeming like a gold digger. I quit my job. Elliott insisted. Why should I work when he could take care of me? I moved into his penthouse. Slowly, carefully, I made myself indispensable. I learned his routines, his preferences, his moods. I attended his business dinners and charmed his colleagues. I redecorated his apartment with tasteful touches. I made him feel like the most important man in the world. And I watched. I watched how he looked at other women. The way his eyes lingered on the hostess at restaurants. The way he flirted with his secretary. The late-night texts he thought I didn't notice. Elliott Harrington was a cheater. Everyone knew it. His ex-wives knew it. His friends knew it. I knew it. But knowing and proving are two different things. When he proposed, on a yacht in the Mediterranean, ridiculously romantic, diamond ring the size of a small planet, I cried. Real tears. Not because I was happy, but because I knew what came next. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. We got married 3 months later. Small ceremony, only close friends and family. I wore Vera Wang. Elliott cried during the vows. I signed a prenup. Of course I did. Elliott wasn't stupid. Prenup was 70 pages long, written by the best lawyers money could buy. But here's the thing about prenups. They're not ironclad. There are conditions, loopholes, clauses, and the most important clause. In the event of proven infidelity, the prenup becomes void. I read that prenup 17 times, memorized every word, consulted with a divorce lawyer, discreetly, paying in cash using a fake name. If you can prove he cheated, the lawyer said, you're entitled to half of everything, plus alimony based on the lifestyle he's provided. How do I prove it? Evidence, photos, videos, text messages, witnesses. The more concrete, the better. I smiled. Thank you. The first year of our marriage was a performance. I played the dutiful wife, hosted dinner parties, smiled for photographs at charity events, traveled with Elliott to business conferences, made love to him when he wanted, which thankfully wasn't often. And I waited. I knew Elliott would cheat. It was just a matter of time. Men like him always do. They can't help themselves. I just had to be patient and prepared. I hired a private investigator. Not directly, through a friend of a friend, untraceable. His name was Marcus, a former cop who specialized in marital surveillance. "What do you need?" he asked when we met in a parking garage in Queens. "Evidence of my husband's affair. Photos, videos, whatever you can get." "How long are you willing to wait?" "As long as it takes." He nodded. "This isn't cheap." "Money isn't a problem." I handed him an envelope of cash, Elliott's cash, ironically. "Just get me what I need." For 6 months, Marcus followed Elliott. Photographed his lunches, his meetings, his late nights at the office. First, there was nothing. Elliott was being careful. Or maybe, for once in his life, he was actually being faithful. But then, month 7, Marcus called. "I've got something." Her name was Sophia. 24 years old. Blonde. Worked at a boutique PR firm that Elliott's company had hired for a campaign. Marcus sent me photos. Elliott and Sophia having lunch at a restaurant in Tribeca. Elliott and Sophia walking into a hotel in Midtown. Elliott and Sophia kissing in the back of his car. My hand shook as I looked at them. Not from heartbreak. From anticipation. "Keep going," I told Marcus. "I need more." Over the next 3 months, Marcus compiled a dossier that would make the FBI proud. Dozens of photos. Time-stamped, location-tagged. Elliott and Sophia at restaurants, hotels, his business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Text messages. Marcus had a contact who could retrieve deleted texts from phone records. Explicit, damning, impossible to deny. Credit card statements showing expensive gifts, jewelry, clothes, a weekend in the Hamptons. Hotel security footage. Marcus had bribed a concierge, showing Elliott and Sophia checking in together. It was bulletproof. I had everything I needed. I waited until our first anniversary. Elliott took me to dinner at the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. He gave me diamond earrings. Told me I was the best thing that had ever happened to him. "I love you, Catherine." "I love you too," I lied. When we got home, I poured us wine. Sat down across from him in the living room. "Elliott, we need to talk." He frowned. "Is everything okay?" "No. Everything is not okay." I pulled out my phone. In the folder of photos. Handed it to him. I watched the color drain from his face as he scrolled through them. Watched his jaw clench. Watched his hands start to shake. "Catherine, I can explain." "Don't." My voice was calm. Cold. "I have photos. Videos. Text messages. Credit card statements. I have a year's worth of evidence documenting your affair with Sophia Caldwell." He set the phone down. "How long have you known?" "Long enough." "Why didn't you say something?" I smiled. "Because I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed for the divorce." His eyes widened. "Divorce? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could cheat on me the way you cheated on your other wives and I'd just accept it?" "Catherine, please. We can work through this. I'll end it with Sophia. I'll do whatever you want. I want a divorce. And according to our prenup, because you committed adultery, I'm entitled to half of your assets plus alimony." He stood up, anger flashing. "You manipulative little." "Careful, Elliott. My lawyer is recording this conversation." A lie, but he didn't know that. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." He sank back down. "You planned this. From the beginning, you planned this." "I planned for this possibility, yes." "You have a pattern, Elliott. 3 ex-wives, all of whom you cheated on. Did you really think I'd be any different? I thought you loved me." I almost laughed. You thought a 25-year-old woman with no money fell in love with a 53-year-old millionaire because of your sparkling personality? Come on, Elliott. You're smarter than that. His face crumpled. So this whole marriage, everything, it was all a lie? No more than your promises of fidelity. I stood up, grabbed my purse. My lawyer will be in touch. I suggest you get a good one. Though I have to warn you, the evidence is pretty damning. You're going to pay, Elliott. A lot. I walked to the door, paused, looked back. Oh, and Elliott? Thank you. For the year of luxury. For the penthouse and the trips and the jewelry. It was fun. But not as fun as taking half of everything you own. I left. And I never looked back. The divorce took 8 months. Elliott's lawyers tried everything. They argued the marriage was fraudulent, that I'd never intended to honor my vows. They claimed I'd entrapped him. They painted me as a gold digger, a manipulator, a woman who'd married for money and nothing else. All of which was true. But none of which mattered. 'Cause I had evidence of his infidelity. Clear, documented, irrefutable evidence. And according to the prenup, that meant I won. The settlement was finalized on a Tuesday morning in March. I got $150 million. Half of Elliott's liquid assets. Plus alimony of $500,000 per year for the next 10 years. Plus the penthouse, which I immediately sold for another $30 million. Plus the art collection, most of which I kept. I'd grown to actually like some of those pieces. Elliott kept his company, his remaining assets, and his reputation in tatters. Tabloids had a field day. Millionaire playboy caught cheating again. Third wife takes billionaire for half his fortune. The gold digger who won. I didn't care what they said. I had my money. And I had my freedom. 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I did something I'd been waiting a year to do. Called James. James Montgomery. 29 years old. High school English teacher. Kind, funny, sincere. We'd met at a coffee shop 3 years ago before I'd ever heard of Elliott Harrington. We'd talked for hours. He'd asked for my number. We'd gone on 2 dates. And then I'd met Elliott. And I'd made my choice. I'd broken things off with James. Told him I wasn't ready for a relationship. It had been the only time during this entire plan that I'd felt genuinely bad. 'Cause James was good. Real. Everything Elliott wasn't. Catherine. James sounded surprised when he answered. Wow. I didn't expect to hear from you. I know. I'm sorry. I know I have no right to call you after how things ended, but I needed to talk to you. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'm divorced. You were married? It's a long story. Can we meet? I'll explain everything. There was a pause. Okay. Same coffee shop where we met. Perfect. I told him everything. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. 'Cause James deserved honesty, even if no one else did. I told him about Elliott. About the plan. About the year of waiting and watching and documenting. About the divorce, the settlement, the money. I expected judgment. Disgust. Anger. Instead, James leaned back and whistled. Damn, Catherine. That's incredible. You're not horrified? Horrified? You married a serial cheater who was 3 times your age, played him at his own game, and walked away with $150 million. That's not horrifying. That's impressive. I laughed. Most people think I'm a terrible person. Most people are hypocrites. Elliott Harrington spent decades using his money to manipulate women. You turned it around on him. Honestly? Good for you. I missed you, I said quietly. These past 2 years. I thought about you a lot. I missed you too. He reached across the table and took my hand. So what now? Now? I smiled. Now I figure out who I am when I'm not pretending to be someone else. I'm thinking about going back to school. Maybe starting a foundation. I have the money to do whatever I want. And what do you want? I looked at him. Really looked at him. His warm brown eyes, his genuine smile, the way he made me feel like I mattered as a person, not just as a pretty face or a potential conquest. I want a second chance. With you. If you're willing to give me one. James squeezed my hand. I think I can do that. That was a year ago. I'm 28 now. I live in a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn that I bought with my own money. No penthouse, no obscene luxury. Just a home that's mine. I went back to school, art history again, but this time for a master's degree. 'Cause I actually love it, not because I thought it would get me a job. I started a foundation that provides college scholarships for women from low-income backgrounds. Women like me who were smart and capable but didn't have the resources to succeed. I give lectures sometimes at universities and women's groups. Not about how to trap a rich man, though people always want to hear that story, but about financial literacy, knowing your worth, understanding prenups and legal protections. And James? James is still teaching. Still kind. Still real. We're not married. I told him I need time before I ever do that again. But we're happy. Really happy. He knows who I am. All of me. The calculating parts, the pragmatic parts, the parts that married for money and don't feel guilty about it. And he loves me anyway. People ask me sometimes if I feel bad about what I did to Elliott. I don't. Elliott Harrington is a predator. He spent his entire adult life using his wealth to seduce young women, then discarding them when they got too old or too demanding. He cheated on 3 wives. He treated women like possessions. I didn't do anything to him that he hadn't done to others. I just did it smarter. Did I marry him for money? Absolutely. Did I use him? Yes. But he used me too. He wanted a beautiful young wife to show off, to make him feel virile and important. He got exactly what he paid for. And when he broke the rules, when he cheated, when he violated our agreement, he paid the price. That's not manipulation. That's justice. My name is Catherine. I'm 28 years old. I married a man I didn't love for his money. I caught him cheating. I divorced him and took $150 million. And I'd do it again. Not because I'm a gold digger or a manipulator or any of the other names people call women like me, but because I understood something that a lot of people don't. Marriage, especially at that level of wealth, is a business transaction. Elliott wanted a trophy wife. I wanted financial security. He broke the contract. I enforced the penalties. And now I have the life I always wanted. Not because a man gave it to me, but because I was smart enough to take it. Some people will judge me for that. I don't care. I'm rich. I'm free. I'm in love with someone who sees me as a person, not a possession. And I sleep very, very well at night. The end. Or maybe, finally, the beginning.